Hello everyone and welcome back to Ian's Innovations. Well, we have at last made it to the third and final part of the three-part series, Little Nightmares, Who is the Runaway Kid? Before we continue to the end of this trilogy, let's quickly recap what happened in the first two chapters of Secrets of the Maw. So in the first chapter, The Depths, the runaway kid begins his escape from the Maw by going through a flooded part of the vessel called the Depths, where he encounters an ugly old lady in the water called the Granny and later kills her. Not long after, he gets captured by the janitor and he ships him on his way to the kitchen. However, on his way there at the beginning of the second chapter, The Hideaway, the runaway kid breaks out of his bag and winds up in the engine room area of the Maw. While there, he befriends the gnomes and they help him solve puzzles, avoid the janitor, and make more progress into escaping the ship. At the end of the chapter, the kid rides up on top of an elevator with the lady inside. Today in part 3, we'll be analyzing the third and final chapter of the runaway kid's adventure, The Residence, where we will see how the kid's story comes to an end and what other revelations we may make. And so, without waiting any longer, let's go and see what will determine the kid's fate. The chapter opens with the runaway kid still on top of the elevator as he wakes up. Based on how the elevator has reached its limits and the fact that the emo kid was sleeping, we can conclude that we've reached the top of the Maw and went a long way up. And I guess either the elevator was moving so slowly that the kid took a nap on the ride, or the Maw is so big that the ride was really long. After leaving the elevator shaft, the kid passes by some gnomes and then stumbles into a brand new section of the Maw. This place is the lady's private residence, hence the name of the chapter. In this first area, we see a library, a fireplace, and to the left are the elevator doors. Well, it looks like the janitor isn't the only person on this vessel who has their own library. As we keep going, we see pictures of what appears to be the lady without her mask, interestingly enough. There's one with the lady having geisha makeup, and another picture is of her without makeup. These two pictures appear multiple times in this place. Now, it's possible that these might not be the lady herself, but could be her predecessors from that popular theory if it is true. It should be noted that these pictures only appear in the private residence. So is she keeping them private? When going further right, we begin to hear some music and then we enter a room with the lady inside, in front of a broken mirror. The room is filled with dolls with masks on them and there is a wind-up music box that's playing the music. There's also a key on a dresser, but as of now we can't obtain it or else we'll get caught by the lady. Speaking of the lady, it looks like she's cradling one of the dolls. So back when I first discovered this a long time ago, it left me confused with what she actually thinks of children. Like, does she like kids after all, or is she just really into her doll collection? Well, it doesn't change what would happen when she notices us here. Once he sneaks past the lady, the runaway kid enters a massive central ground room with a staircase and more passageways that lead to even more rooms. You know, why does the lady even have that tiny living quarters from the main campaign if she has this massive private residence? Maybe she has more stuff that she keeps secret to herself? Anyway, the kid sees a gnome run off to the right and he follows it into a strange room. There's a pillar that's raised from the floor with a broken lady figure on it, and there are 3 unique floor tiles, with each having a shape of a triangle, a circle, and a square respectively. So what does this stuff mean? Well, we're gonna have to explore the residence and find the other 3 figures that each match the corresponding tiles to open the door on the right. Alright then, let's go figurine hunting. Like in the last chapter, we can decide which direction from this hub-like place we can go through to get what we need. For this analyzation, we will first head to the top and explore. On our way up, we see another picture of the lady placed in the center of this wall. It shows her with geisha makeup again and it shows more of her torso. I just thought I should point that out. When the runaway kid reaches the upper floor, we see some sort of display of a solar system, I guess, as well as a locked door on the left. We'd most likely use that key from earlier to open it later. This astronomy display acts as a puzzle where the kid has to move the lenses on the rings to point light from the center at the three eyes on the wall, and then he uses his flashlight to shine light on the fourth eye on this door to open it and proceed right. So does the lady also study astronomy, or is this thing's only purpose is to act as a puzzle? After opening the door, the kid enters a dark, ominous hallway with statues of children and the lady. There's also 3 normal-sized lady statues, with one of them being headless. Next, we see a wall covered in framed pictures. We could see a couple familiar faces. There's the janitor, the twin chefs, the lady of those 4 mysterious figures, the ferryman, the wax bellman, the granny, some gnomes, and that fat bathtub lady from the early concept art of the game. There are also pictures of unfamiliar faces, as well as pictures of children, and some even have broken heads. With more Little Nightmares coming soon, we know that these kids with broken heads are the teacher's students that will appear in Little Nightmares 2. We could also spot some pictures of various locations, some of which are places that will also be in the upcoming sequel. The runaway kid goes further right and comes across another puzzle. At first, we see more framed pictures of mysterious characters on the walls, but then we notice there's a button underneath each of them. Pressing a button shines a light onto the pictures over it. In order to solve the puzzle, the kid must shine light onto the pictures of characters that were framed in the previous room. Fun fact, I remember I had trouble trying to solve this puzzle back when I first played Resistance, and my brother helped me figure it out. So about those mysterious, disgusting looking characters. Again, back when this DLC first released in early 2018, we had no idea who any of them were. But it's safe to say that this woman is the teacher, who will be a character also in Little Nightmares 2. I love it how there's still a reason to look back at these DLCs. Goes to show how long the upcoming sequel has been in development. Once he solves the puzzle, the runaway kid enters a large room with more lady statues and spots one of the 3 lady figurines on a pedestal, this one having the triangle-shaped bottom. But when he goes to pick it up, it's of course not that straightforward, as the mechanical security eye activates and he immediately flees from its gaze with the figure in hand. This eye functions exactly like the ones all the way back in the prison section. The kid must make it back to the left with the figure without getting spotted in the light, or else he gets turned to stone. So as the runaway kid heads back, we hear some unsettling music play, as we also hear some creepy distorted child laughter, and also seeing mysterious small dark figures peeking from some statues and seeing them run behind statue to statue. Well, this definitely isn't looking good so far in the Residence. Once the kid leaves the section with the triangle lady figure, he heads back down to the figurine room on the lower floor and places the figure on the triangle floor tile, causing the tile to rise up from the floor like the one with the broken figure. 1 down, 2 to go. Or 2 down, 2 to go. The kid goes up to the 2nd floor to find the next figurine and walks over to the left and immediately finds the one with the square-shaped bottom in an empty room. Cool. But just like last time, it's in fact a trap. As soon as he takes a figure, the eye on the wall opens, the door that he came in from closes shut, and the ceiling starts lowering. It all only stops when he puts the figure back on the pressure plate. So how do we get that figure without getting crushed? Well, the runaway kid then heads to the room on the right side of the floor. This room is filled with a lot of books. However, you may notice that some of the books have unique designs on their spines. One book even has the design of half the lady's mask. This book is used for something, but we'll go over it later in this video. The kid puts the unique books and their corresponding books on the shelves, and it opens a secret door on the right. He enters a secret room and finds the same square-bottomed figurine? No, not really. This is actually a fake one lady figurine with a square-shaped bottom that we will use to get the real one. As the kid heads back to the room on the left with the dummy figure, the grandfather clock on the right mysteriously rings for some odd reason. And this only happens at this specific moment. So, why does it ring? Well, I have my own theory on that, in which I think it's ringing for the time the guests board onto the mall. And I guess that time is 3 o'clock according to the big hand and the little hand. Not sure if it's either AM or PM. It would make sense since this is late into the story and the lady would have to somehow know when they come if this happens once a year. Nevertheless, the kid goes back to the room on the left, and in a slick Indiana Jones style, he swaps the real lady figurine with a fake wooden figurine on the pressure plate. The runaway kid goes back to the figurine room on the bottom floor and places the lady figure on the square floor tile, causing the tile to rise up from the floor like the other two so far. Now we just have one more figurine to go. However, the lights in the central room go out as soon as we do that. When we walk back into the dark area, we even see those shadow kids again running around giggling. To make matters worse, the lady has left her previous position from the doll room. Well, looks like getting the figurine with the circle-shaped bomb won't be any less dangerous. 3 of those shadow kids then begin attacking the runaway kid. Okay, what even are these shadowy creatures? Well, these things are officially called shadow enemies, but Little Nightmares fans call them shadow kids. They are described as nightmarish illusions and are summoned by the lady according to this article on the Residence DLC. The shadow kids appear as children our height and are made of those dark powers the lady uses. They also have porcelain masks similar to that of the lady. The shadow kids' weakness is light, which is why they only appear in dark places, so the runaway kid must point his handy flashlight at the creatures to kill them. And if he doesn't, they will dash at him and either kill him or possess him. I don't know, that part's kinda up in the air. Now, since the lady summoned these things to kill him, this must only mean she already knows what he is up to. After killing the 3 shadow kids, the kid takes that key that he couldn't get earlier and goes back to open that locked door on the left on the top floor from earlier. What follows is him going through a series of more rooms in the residence while also fighting back the shadow kids. During this, let's analyze a few things. Another interesting detail about the shadow kids is that they seem to have a similar shackle on their ankle like the one on the runaway kid's ankle. Could this mean they are maybe a dark reflection of the kid himself? Or maybe the developers reused his model to make the shadow kid's model but forgot to remove the shackle. Also while here, we should wonder, with all these books all throughout the residence, what could they possibly be about? I believe only the lady would know the answer to that question, if of course she has read all of them. When asked about her powers in an interview with the developers back in 2018, they said that she learned all sorts of unpleasant things during her residence, and that it's best if they don't scratch the surface. From this answer, I believe the books may contain info about her dark powers and maybe even details about the mall's history and purpose. After fighting off the shadow kids, the runaway kid finds safety in what looks like some relaxing room with a piano and a portrait of the mall. To the right is a model of the mall. Hey, that looks kinda cool. But like all things on this vessel, there's more than meets the eye, no pun intended, as we also notice there are handles on the model. The kid pulls on a handle, and once he lets go, the top opens up to reveal the lady figure with the circle-shaped bottom. Finally, we found the last of the 3 figurines. The runaway kid exits the room and enters back into the room with the collapsing ceiling trap, and heads through the central room. This time there are no shadow kids, just us with the figurine. It looks like the lady isn't doing anything to us right now. However, I don't think we should calm down just yet. The kid places the final lady figure on the circle floor tile, making the tile rise up and it unlocks the door to the right. Before we go on, let's take a look at a few things here now that we have all 4 figures. Okay, so first off, how many lady figures do we see? 4. And how many mysterious people were standing next to the lady in that portrait from earlier? 4. Coincidence? Maybe. But I like to wonder about this. Some fans speculate that each figure represents each of the previous ladies that ran the mall, and some fans even believe the broken one already there might represent the granny if they are related. The second thing I think we need to point out is that, with all the puzzles, traps, and shadow kits that we had to face to get all the figures, it looks as though the lady really doesn't want anyone knowing what is in here. So what secrets lie in the other direction? Well, as the runaway kid enters the room, we first see some broken mirrors, which is disturbingly familiar since we've seen these details from the ladies' quarters as 6. Oh crap. One detail that I noticed not long ago is that there are bloodstains on the broken mirrors, and I double checked if that detail was also in 6's campaign, and it was. So does it physically hurt the lady to look at her own reflection? Well, yeah, but she was still wearing her mask in that battle of 6 and couldn't have been looking at the reflection of her face, so what gives here? As the kid keeps going, he makes this major discovery. Here he witnesses the lady without her mask looking at her reflection in an unbroken mirror. But instead of a youthful, pretty face like we thought we'd see, it instead shows her face as an old lady. There is more to this scene, but I'll get into that later in the video. With this secret now known by the kid, he tries to sneak past her, but then... Well, fuck. Not only does the lady now know we're here, but now she's also gone and the mirror behind her is now shattered, and all because of one stupid creaky floorboard. However, at least this finally explains why all the mirrors on the mall are broken, and I remember this was a big deal for the fans in early 2018. After unintentionally revealing his presence, the kid has no choice but to run, as he runs through a maze of wooden mannequins and the lady floats past him a couple times. He runs down a steep hallway and then goes into a room on the left, before hearing a door creak. The door to the right is now mysteriously open and he attempts to keep going but is stopped by the lady, as she now has him within her grasp and he starts floating. Black smoke emits around him as she does something to him, and then it cuts to black. Moments later, we see that the runaway kid has been turned into a gnome, making him completely powerless. The lady's nowhere to be seen, and on the floor we could see the kid's clothes, shackle, and flashlight, which unfortunately we can't pick up and use anymore. With nothing else better to do, he exits the lady's private residence and enters the guest area. Because of what he is now, he can't run as fast or jump as high as he used to, so he can't make it across gaps like that one. The kid runs past some fat guests eating their meals and luckily, they either ignore him or don't notice him. Soon enough, he goes through a small crack in the wall and sees a sausage in a very familiar room. Yup, that's right. All 3 DLCs led up to the reveal that the runaway kid is the gnome that 6 eats. The last moment of him we see is him walking up to the sausage, and then it turns to black. We then get the achievement, We'll Meet Again, which I believe references back to the scene with him and Six both on screen in the cage room from the lair. As the credits begin to roll, we also hear the lady humming along with the music, which just rubs more salt to the wound. My gosh, this is probably one of the most soul-crushing endings to a video game I've ever seen. The fact that we see him go through all this shit in these sections of the mall so he could escape, and only for us to learn that he dies just sucks. And it kinda makes me dislike Six more than I did before. After the credits are over, the shot pans out of a TV in some mysterious place as it turns to static, as well as hearing crows in the background. And then we briefly see a glimpse of a tall, skinny man on the screen until the scene cuts back to the main menu. Now again, back when the Residents first came out, no one could really make out what the scene meant. Some fans theorized that the figure on the TV might be the hanging man from the beginning of Six's adventure, and others thought it could be the North Wind from the comics because of the presence of crows and the lines on the TV screen. But with the sequel soon on its way, fans now conclude that this was hinting to the tall, mysterious figure who will probably be the main antagonist in Little Nightmares 2. Again, showing how long the guys at Tarsier Studios have been working on this game. Also, the presence of crows implies that this after-credits scene takes place on land rather than in the middle of the ocean. Okay, we are finally done with the Runaway Kid's adventure. However, we aren't done with him yet. Just like what I did with Six, we will be going over his appearance, background, and other things. So the Runaway Kid is a tiny child around the same size as Six. He wears a blue long-sleeve shirt, long dark blue pants, and a shackle with a broken chain around his right ankle. Like Six, he is barefoot and has really skinny limbs. He has long black hair that covers his face, which makes him emo, just like all the other kids in this universe. Unlike Six, the Runaway Kid is in fact confirmed to be a boy. For the abilities the kid possesses, he can do the usual things like run, jump, and crouch. He also knows how to swim. He uses his flashlight that he acquired from the mysterious girl to light his way, along with using it once to solve the light puzzle, and even using it to fight the Shadow Kids. The Runaway Kid doesn't have any other tools or weapons to his disposal, but can't pick up, push, pull, or throw lighter objects including gnomes, but he can't push, pull, or pick up heavier objects because he's too weak, unless he gets help to do it, like from gnomes in the Hideaway chapter. Next, we'll try to look into the Runaway Kid's background. Now, since we don't have any comic book issue, or mobile prequel game, or even official character description about him like Six to go off of, we unfortunately don't really know anything about his background, so all we have to speculate upon is what's presented to us in the game. Since the first chapter opens with the kid in one of those nurseries in the prison, it's safe to say that he was one of the many kids who were taken by the ferryman from the outside world to the mall. I think he learned to swim from wherever he came from, and I highly doubt the mall has swimming lessons for the kids. One question about the Runaway Kid's design is, why does he have a shackle around his ankle? None of the other kids on the mall have that feature. A while back, the YouTuber Arcane Static had an interview with Tarsier Studios where he asked a couple questions about the DLCs. When asked about the kid having a shackle, they joked that he may be following a trend, so that wasn't any help. Another strange thing about the kid is that in the official description of the depths given out back when it was first announced, it said he had no idea the depths would be home to a monster like the Granny, but he has a nightmare about her before he ventures down there, implying that he at least knew of her existence at that point. The description also implies that the kid and the flashlight girl had organized the plan to escape. If you recall, I did bring up the possibility of the kid previously going into the depths before he began his escape in the video Little Nightmares Who is the Runaway Kid Part 1 to explain some of those questions, but I think I have a better theory. Based on the Runaway Kid's actions throughout Secrets of the Maw, it's safe to say that he really wants to escape this vessel. So much so that this could have gotten him into trouble when he was stuck in the prison. Maybe the janitor had to chain him by his ankle as punishment, but he appears to no longer be punished by the time he begins his escape. Also during his stay, he may have heard of the granny but not have been sure if she was in fact real, which could explain why he has a nightmare of her right before his escape. Oh, and speaking of the kid's escape, why did him and the flashlight girl plan to do it around the same time Six began her adventure? Well, my best guess is that it was just a coincidence. There are a couple things that set apart the Runaway Kid from Six, besides the gender differences. For one, he is willing to work with others to escape, as shown with the gnomes in the hideaway and how he befriends them. This also shows how much he really wants to escape. Another thing about him is that if you've been paying attention throughout all the DLCs, you may have noticed something. The kid never goes through any hunger pains like Six did. Since we determined that those hunger pains are tied to Six's powers, this shows that the Runaway Kid is just a normal kid who doesn't have any strange powers. Of course, one of the things the kid did not intend to do was discover the lady's secret, and that resulted in him meeting a fate he would never expect. There were two things fans went crazy about in Secrets of the Maw, and those were what we learned about the lady and the gnomes. First, let's go over the big reveal of when the lady looks at her reflection in the mirror. I remember when I first played The Residents, I really thought she looked like an old lady under her mask the entire time, and a lot of fans thought that too. But upon closer inspection, that is not the case, since we could see that her skin on her arms and face appear youthful and not old. This face here, when removing her mask in the game files, is most likely her actual face. This scene also reveals why all the mirrors are broken in the lady's quarters and her private residence. Yeah, if you're wondering, no, the one-way mirror from the guest area does not count. But why does her reflection show her as an old lady? Well, in my nearly hour-long video, Little Nightmares Who is 6 from late 2018, I made a theory that the lady is obsessed with trying to keep herself young as long as possible. So I based that theory around the scene from the DLC, but I just didn't bring that up because I wasn't covering Secrets of the Maw at the time. In case you forgot about the theory, I'll quickly fill you in. I state that each year, the guests go to the Maw and eat the children, and when the lady sucks the life force out of them, she also gains the children's youth so she could stay young for a really long time. Here is part of the theory that's tied in with the DLC. By keeping herself young, this would come to a cost, as whenever she looks at her reflection, she would see herself as nothing but an old, withering lady, showing how old she really is and would never be able to gaze upon her beauty ever again. Next, let's talk about the granny. Of course, a popular theory is that she was the previous overseer of the Maw before the lady and could also be the lady's mother. We know the granny had to have had some contribution to the Maw since we could see her framed picture among the other workers' pictures in the residence. People speculate that the lady banished her to the depths as another example of her pride. This is supported by the depths official description where it describes the granny as abandoned to decay and rage. Another interesting aspect about the lady are her shadow kids. As I said before, they are summoned by her and attack the Runaway Kid. But what exactly are they? Well, some fans speculate that they may be the corrupt spirits of the kids who perished on the Maw, but I think they are something else. Since the lady does summon them, it's safe to say that she also created them. The Shadow Kids also appear to be made up of the same dark aura as the lady's powers, and they seem to have similar masks. I think they are made to resemble children in order to put more fear into the Runaway Kid's mind or any other kid's mind when going through the residence. Maybe that could be why they also have a shackle around their leg. And of course, the lady probably created them to stop any kid from progressing and discovering her secret. Interestingly, based off concept art, it looks like either the kid would be turned into a shadow kid whenever killed by them, or the chapter would have ended with the lady transforming him into one instead of a gnome, which to be honest, would have definitely been a happier ending. One of the things about the lady that kinda confuses me is her view on children. Like, she catches Six and a Runaway kid whenever they go near her, but in the residence, we can clearly see her holding a doll as if she's nursing it when she turns around. Well, here's a theory the Gaming Beaver made a while ago, and that is that the lady secretly has a love for children. Think about it. Whenever she catches us, it doesn't show her killing us. The only other enemy who isn't shown killing us is the janitor, who many fans speculate is a good guy. All the other enemies either strangle, cook, or eat us. This could also explain why the lady didn't do anything to the runaway kid at the end of the hideaway, where she clearly knew he was there. Oh, and why else would she have an entire collection of dolls that resemble infants? Here's another detail that's related to this theory. Remember that book which had half the lady's mask on its spine from the book puzzle? Well, if you take that book all the way back to the elevator entry room, you could place it in a shelf with a matching book and open a door to a secret room. In it, there's a table with an ash pot on it, and around the room are unfortunate kids who got turned to stone by the mechanical eyes. There's also a painting in the back that may represent the kids' spirits coming into the pot. Now, breaking the pot earns you the achievement Ashes to Ashes, but I believe this could also support that the lady has respect for children. Also, with the lady's actions in turning the runaway kid into a gnome, she's not killing him, but instead turns him into a different creature altogether. Of course, the lady values her beauty over everything else. Maybe she wouldn't kill any children herself, but would use others to do it for her, and she wouldn't hesitate to punish them. As a quick mention, I'm gonna bring up the flashlight girl again. Now, some people speculate that she may be secretly working for the lady because what she did at the beginning of Secrets of the Maw may just be her luring the runaway kid to his fate. However, aside from her looking very similar to the girl next to the lady from that picture, I don't think there's that much evidence to really back this up. I'm only talking about this because I promised in Little Nightmares Who Was Six that I'd cover that picture again, and I believe the flashlight girl was just an in-person child that hatched the plan to escape with the kid. And the last thing we'll cover is the scene of the lady turning the runaway kid into a gnome and the gnomes in general in Secrets of the Maw. Back when the Residence came out in 2018, most, if not all fans came to the belief that the entire time, the gnomes were just kids that met the same fate as the runaway kid where they discovered the lady's secret. Now unable to speak ever again, so they can't talk about what they saw to anyone and are forever slaves to the Maw by keeping its engine running. However, with more Little Nightmares content released since and with more to come, I'm not too sure if this theory now holds any water, no pun intended. In Very Little Nightmares, we see gnomes in various areas throughout the nest, and Tarsier Studios did confirm that gnomes do exist in more places outside of the Maw in the world of Little Nightmares, so we'll probably see them in Little Nightmares too. Unless some gnomes somehow managed to escape from the Maw and made it to the nest and other places beyond, I'm pretty sure there's no way the lady solely created every single gnome. And there isn't. Because in that same interview Arcane Stack had that I mentioned earlier, the developers confirmed that several of the gnomes on the Maw did in fact exist before the lady. I believe those 4 previous figures from the theory may have created some of those other gnomes, or they may have just been on the Maw since its beginning. Or maybe it's both possibilities. But what about the ones beyond the Maw? Well, Arcane Stack also made a theory that most gnomes exist naturally, and that the lady has the power to turn things into other things. And I kinda agree with him. So because of this, I believe some of the gnomes on the Maw had always been on the vessel, while others had been created from kids by the lady and other overseers before her, and the ones created from kids can go to their hideaway to look back at what they once were after fueling the engine. and most gnomes beyond the Maw simply exist naturally. Now, you may have noticed that all gnomes that Six and the Runaway Kid run into immediately run away unless we show signs of trust. So why didn't the Runaway Kid as a gnome do the same when he offered Six the sausage? Well, I believe all the gnomes run away from all children, regardless of if they're Six or not. Probably because Six has been on the Maw long enough for them to know about her dark potential, so they never know if any kid they see could be her. And because the Runaway Kid had just turned into a gnome at that point, he didn't know he's supposed to be scared, so he blindly offered her the food and paid the unfortunate price. So, now that we've analyzed and speculated everything about Secrets of the Maw, let's go over what we could piece together into the Runaway Kid story as a whole. The Runaway Kid was just a normal kid and got captured and taken to the Maw, just like all other captured kids as part of the lady's sinister operation in keeping her youth forever. While stuck in the prison, he really wanted nothing but to escape the Maw, which often got him into trouble and got chained by his leg at some point. Also while there, he heard about some things about the vessel such as the granny and had persistent nightmares about her. Eventually, the Runaway Kid and a girl with a flashlight hatch a plan to escape the Maw and begin going through the depths. But the flashlight girl soon perishes not long after entering the depths, and the kid takes her flashlight. Throughout his escape attempt, he gains confidence in himself and gets over various obstacles. First, he encounters the granny in the murky waters and later kills her, but gets captured by a janitor as soon as he exits the depths. The Runaway Kid soon breaks away from heading towards the kitchen to be used as food and instead ventures into the Maw's engine room, where he befriends the gnomes and they help him make further progress in his escape. The kid reaches the lady's private residence and manages to get past her deadly traps, puzzles, and shadow kids that try to stop him. But what the kid didn't intend to do was discover the lady's secret about her reflection. He tried to make a run for it, but the lady turned him into a powerless gnome. With all hope lost, the kid makes his way to the guest area and walks up to a sausage. In the main campaign, he encounters Six going through a hunger pain, as he politely offers her the sausage. Since he had just been turned into a gnome, he doesn't know he should be scared of what she could do. Because of this, Six devours him and he meets his unfortunate fate. In the end, the Runaway Kid is one of the most tragic characters in Little Nightmares. He was so confident that he could escape the Maw and wanted nothing more than that. But unfortunately for him, he saw what he shouldn't have seen and met his fate at the hands of Six when he didn't know any better. However, the Runaway Kid did not die in vain. If it wasn't for him, Six would have never been able to escape the Maw and become the next being with immense powers. His adventure was shorter than Six's, but was an interesting one that went parallel with hers. And that is all 3 parts of Little Nightmares, Who is the Runaway Kid? An analyzation on my second favorite character in Little Nightmares, as well as a general overview on Secrets of the Maw. I find it crazy that it's already been over 2 years since the last DLC came out, and I still remember being extremely excited when purchasing and playing it for the first time on its release day like it was yesterday. The reason why I prefer the Runaway Kid over Six is because, as the DLCs continued, I was really growing to like him. I thought he was getting really confident that he could escape the Maw and how he befriended and got help from the gnomes. And of course, it saddened me when they killed him off, and it kinda made me dislike Six as a character a little. What made that scene worse was that fans were speculating before the Residents came out that the kid would get turned into a gnome and be the one Six eats based on the gnomes' shadows in the hideaway. I'm sure everyone hates it when the theory they don't want to be true ends up becoming true, especially when that theory was really popular. Oh, and if you're wondering, no, the Runaway Kid and the kid that gave Six the bread in the main campaign aren't the same character. Developers already debunked that. This video took a while to make, mainly because of how I covered not only the Residents chapter, but covered the Runaway Kid as a character, and everything that happened before in Secrets of the Maw. It's a good thing that I didn't cover all of Secrets of the Maw in one video, otherwise it would have been very long and you guys would have had to wait many months to see it. Thank you for watching part 3 of this trilogy, and I hope you enjoyed all of Little Nightmares Who is the Runaway Kid. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I have more Little Nightmares videos planned for the future. Goodbye.